Hello, my name is Bob Furlong, and this is the Cell Structure Unit Walkthrough. In all of these units, I am using the Quivers method of lesson instruction. This was developed by Paul Anderson from Bozeman Science that replaces the 5E method of instruction simply because it's hard to remember what the 5E's are, whereas the Quivers method uses the question, investigation, video, elaboration, review, and summative assessment to present the lessons to the students. The first one is we always start with a question, and this is usually a very short activity. Students are asked to look up some of the stuff found in prokaryotic cells, plant cells, and animal cells, and then they're going to make a Venn diagram of their structure so that they're starting to organize their thoughts. Some of this they've already had before in junior high. They should be able to do some sort of recall on many of these types of organelles found in these types of cells. So then we will go on to an investigation. Now in this investigation, we want students to be looking at some actual cells and then given an unknown cell, see if they can identify what kind of a cell it is. So this is just a different take on some traditional labs where first they will take a look at an onion where they peel off a layer of onion, add some iodine, look at that under a microscope, then also take a look at an elodea leaf under a microscope. So they take a look at two different plant cells. They can then do take a look at their own cheek cells using the methylene blue stain. And then I like to use frog blood. This is a prepared slide that you have to purchase, although you can find these online if you just want to give them a picture. But what's nice is about the frog blood is they're nice and round, and you have a really good looking nucleus, almost like one of those composite animal cell pictures that you see. So they now have two plant cells, two animal cells, and then we give them an unknown cell to look at. Now their job is to convince you as to what kind of a cell this is. Is it plant or is it animal cell? And so they have a place to make their drawings. But this is using the claim evidence reasoning model. So their question is, what type of cell does the unknown organism have? And so they're going to make their claim. They could maybe say that it's plant cells. Maybe they think that it's animal cells. Well, what's their evidence? Why do they think they have a plant cell, or why do they think that they have an animal cell? And then what's their reasoning? They have to use their evidence to back up their claim. Now, one of the nice things about this is when you're choosing the unknown, choose something that is a little bit ambiguous. So for instance, I like to use euglena because euglena has some animal-like structures to it. It also has some plant-like structures to it. And although I understand that euglena is a protist, the idea here is not that there's a right answer, but that they are being able to look at evidence and be able to justify their answer from the evidence. The third part of the Quivers method is a video, so this is just going to be content delivery. And so you can provide guided notes for the students if you wish, or you can put this into another website like Edpuzzle or Zaption and embed your own questions. Maybe you just want the kids to take their own notes. It's totally up to you. But now they do sort of have a framework for what cells are, what the difference between plant and animal cells are. Now they're getting that content information. In the elaboration lesson, we are going to be using a POGIL activity. POGIL stands for Process-Oriented Guided Inquiry Lesson. And if you go to Flynn Scientific, and there's a link provided, you can purchase the whole book. However, they do give this one free on their website, which is why I am using this one, and you can also use this one, but this is using models to look at the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So students will be answering the questions based on those models. Notice that you'll see stop signs along the way. This is a chance for you to check in with the students. They should stop when they hit that stop sign, and you can look over their answers, maybe ask them a few other questions. The nice thing about these stop signs is that you're actually kind of grading these papers as you go along. So by the time they're done, you've already looked at all of their answers to their questions. Now it does have some extensions, and you can choose to do these extensions or not, but the basic first 4 pages is good for any level biology class. In the review lesson, students are going to be making analogies for the cell organelles. So for instance, I have listed some of the major organelles and what their functions are in the cell. And notice that there are two blank columns. There's an image and then there's a reason. So what students would do, for instance, they would take a look at the nucleus, which stores DNA. They would then also be given this paper. They would take a look at all of these different clip arts, and they're going to cut one of them out and tape it onto the paper underneath the image section. And so students oftentimes will choose, say, maybe like the brain, for instance, or maybe they choose the White House, or maybe City Hall, something along those lines. But they can choose any of these answers. But then they have to state what their reason is. How does that picture, how is that an analogy for the function of that organelle? So it really gets kids to start thinking very deeply about how do all of these organelles work together in keeping a cell alive. And lastly, in the summative assessment, all of the summative assessments are in quizzes, so you'll need to create an account for this. And there are two different ways that you can play this. You can play it live as a class, so it sort of sets it up kind of like a Kahoot. But what is also nice, you can also choose to assign this as a homework assignment and put a due date on there. And you get lots of good feedback from and data from this. Find out if are there some students that maybe need to go back and watch the video. Do they really understand the differences between plant and animal cells and prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells? And so that is the cell structure unit walkthrough.